Good morning, everybody. It's your boy D Max, so let's talk. All right, y'all see the title. I didn't even know that yesterday was Juneteenth because I don't acknowledge Juneteenth. Even after I found out about Juneteenth, which I didn't find out until I moved to Texas. Well, growing up in North Carolina, I never heard of Juneteenth. We never celebrated any Juneteenth or anything like that in North Carolina. And so when I got to Texas and I heard about Juneteenth, and at first I didn't say nothing. I was like, okay, this must be a Texas thing. And then went to a Juneteenth celebration and they began to explain what Juneteenth was. And I was like, yeah, this isn't something I can't really get behind for the simple fact of my set of beliefs. And this is what I believe, and this is what keeps me from acknowledging Juneteenth. Juneteenth is supposed to be the celebration of when slaves were actually freed. But in my observation of that period of time, slaves were never freed. They were just put in a different form of bondage. They may have been released from the bondage of slavery in the sense of being forced labor into another form of bondage to where they were still forced labor, because look at it, after they were freed, where did the slaves go? A majority of them went right back to the plantation and became sharecroppers because they had nowhere to go and nobody was going to give them a job or an opportunity. So they had no other choice but to go back to the slave masters and, work the lands. The only difference was they got a little bit extra. Now they were bumped up to the level of an indentured servant. And that's what the Scottish people who worked alongside the black people were. So they got upgraded to the same level as a hillbilly or the Scottish people who were residing in the United States at that time. So were they really freed? No, they didn't have any financial freedom because the amount of money that they were making for sharecropping was just enough to support their families and to keep a place, which was their old slave quarters anyway. So now they're paying for their slave quarters to the master. And so you had financial slavery. Now remember, the term slavery is the root word from Slavic, and it means to gain capital by exploiting another person. To gain capital by exploiting another person. So let's research this. After slavery was over and they supposedly let the slaves go free, but the slaves couldn't go and get a job anywhere because none of the people would give them a job. So they had to come back to the plantation and work there. Is that not exploitation? Did they not exploit those people for the situation that they were in? They absolutely did. So I don't see the freedom in that. And to this day, we're still not free because we're still working for this government. We're still this government's property. And I'll go even farther than that. Not only black people are property of this government, every single person born in the United States who has a social security number and a birth certificate are the property of the United States. When you sign your child's birth certificate, you're signing over the rights to the state to be able to make decisions concerning that child. Whenever that child gets a social security number, that social security number is a bank account that the United States is able to borrow money from the Federal Reserve off of according to the earning potential of that person over their lifespan. So you tell me who's being exploited and who's still under slavery. So if we're still under this type of slavery, how can I, in good conscience, celebrate something like Juneteenth, which is supposed to be commemorating the end of slavery, but slavery has never ended, it's ongoing? How then are we supposed to sit here and act like something is over when it's not? See, this is the whole plan. This is the whole entire plan. It's just like the whole banning of critical race theory. They want you to forget what happened. They want to try to erase it from the memory banks. They want to deny it out of existence so that later down the line, the next generation or the generation after that is going to believe that lie. If you make the lie big enough, people will believe it. This has been stated time and time again. And this is being shown as an example right before our very eyes in the January 6th hearings, with all that is coming out about the lies, or the big lie, which is referring to Donald Trump's lie where he said that the presidency was stolen from him. So if the lie is big enough and enough people is pushing that lie, you're going to have people to believe that. And you see the end result of that. And that's what happened on January 6th. So we're still under exploitation from this government. We're still being used by this government for capital gain. Not only are they using us in the workforce, not only are they using us with credit and taxing us, but they're also using us as collateral to borrow money. I mean, what other way how much more can somebody be used? So if we're still under this type of exploitation, which is slavery, how then can we in good conscience celebrate Juneteenth? I'm just asking a question because there's a lot of people out there who say that, it's important for us to acknowledge and to celebrate Juneteenth because the all of the ancestors, they fought for this and they battled for, no, they fought for freedom. This is not freedom. Okay, this is not what they fought for. Good morning, brother. How you doing, your crazy cousin? Let me put this up. You said they created the lie, printed it in textbooks, and taught it to multiple generations. Absolutely, brother. Why you think they call it a library? The library is full of books that's full of lies, homie. And the victor is always going to tell his side of the story. So anybody who's out here who loves to argue these points, I will refer back to that every single time. And I will always make that point because people love to try to argue the history of the United States from the perspective of the United States. No, let's find some other perspectives. Let's find some people who fought against them. Let's find some of those people who had an outside view looking in, and they can give you a better summary of what it really looked like. Because as we grow and as we evolve and as information and technology evolves, it's exposing a lot of those lies that was told to us coming up, man. It's exposing a lot of it's also exposing us to a lot of the truths that were hidden from us. So as we go into these different holidays and these different stories about history, we have to understand that it's his story. And so when you look at it from those perspectives, man, you can gain a better understanding of why they want us to believe that we're free. They want us to believe that we're free so that we can engulf ourselves deeper in the materialistic stuff, and we can take our minds and our focus off of the things that are really important. That's why they want us to forget everything. They want to lull us to sleep so that we can have that mindset like the people who run this country, because they're delusional and they are so in denial about the state of this country that they will do any and everything to protect their narrative. And that's a very dangerous place to be. When you will go above and beyond just to shape and form a narrative that you know is not true, then that's you sugarcoating things. That's you trying to hide what's really going on behind the scenes. And you know what the words say, the truth eventually comes to the light, so you can't hide it forever. And we're in the generation of revelation. This is the generation to where things are being revealed to us at an all-time high. So they can't hide these things from us no more. That's all we got to do is look. They used to make this little nasty joke all the time. If you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Well, guess what? We have access to all the books now right at the tip of our fingers. So there's nothing you can hide anymore, because if we want to know, then we're going to go and find out. And I'm the type of person I've always wanted to know. The morning Iceberg Thoughts, you said facts. It's all about distraction and diversion from the important issues. Yeah, sleight of hand, man. Sleight of hand, brother, every time. And we always get caught with the same trick, man. But there's a lot of us out there, and I'm proud to see a lot of you guys like your crazy cousin, Iceberg Thoughts, and a lot of other people who I converse with on a regular. um I'm seeing that we're learning these things. We're starting to gather the information. We're starting to connect the dots. And so there's a collective group of us that cannot be lied to by these people. It's going to be very hard for these people to lie to us, because they've already planted the seed of doubt with the actions that they show on a regular basis. Just pay attention. And I'm not saying you have to go and get caught up in the news and get caught up in all of that stuff that's going on, but I want you to pay attention to the behavior and the actions of the people who are in positions of authority over us in this country, and tell me if you're really comfortable with these people being in charge of you and giving you instruction on your day-to-day life. Tell me if you're really comfortable with that, because I look at the reps on both sides of the aisle. I'm not just talking about a Democrat. I'm not just talking about a Republican. I'm talking about Democrats, Republicans, progressives, and grassroots, independents, everybody. Everybody. It's not just an identity thing anymore, because it's more personal now. People are hiding under the banner of these different things and these different labels, so that they can do what they do freely without any opposition, because now they have the whole identity of this group backing them, as opposed to just them by themselves with their view and trying to defend it. So you have all of these people who are hiding out in these groups just so they can push their toxic beliefs on the rest of the world and have this group to back them. And so when you look at this and you see this, you have to understand that identifying with this group, identifying with that group is not going to make you any better of a person. It's not going to make you any more powerful. It's not going to make you any smarter, and it's not going to edify your spirit, man, in any way, shape, or form. And this is one reason why I'm very weary about joining organizations, any organization, whether it be religious, whether it be secular, whatever the case may be. I'm very weary about joining organizations. I will fellowship with my brothers. I have absolutely no problem doing that. But as far as me committing myself, my time, my finances, my intellect, and all of those things to an organization, I can't do that. I'm sorry. That's just I'm not going to I'm not going to risk being a misrepresentation of that group because we don't have the same ideology or belief system. And I'm not going to allow a group to represent me and speak for me if they're not lined up with what I believe and how I feel. And there's no group out there that I've found yet that lines up with what I believe and what I feel, because I'm not just one dimensional. There's some conservative views that I agree with. There's some liberal views that I agree with. There's some independent views that I agree with. There's some authoritarian views that I agree with. There's so many different things that so you can't just stick me under the banner of Democrat and be like, yep, he's a Democrat because he believes in socialism. And you can't stick me in the Republican Party because, well, he's a Republican because he believes in capitalism. No, I believe in different things, and so you cannot put these labels on me. And so, therefore, I stand alone the majority of the time. And I go to church on a regular basis, and I fellowship with my brethren and stuff like that. But there's certain things in the church. There's certain discrepancies in the church that I don't agree with and that I feel are making the church, well, it's hindering the growth and the power that the church could actually have because they don't want to operate in absolute truth. And, the church has gotten so conditioned to, catering to the masses as opposed to holding the standard and standing 10 toes down on it, then, you can't really rock with that. We was just talking about that yesterday. And so that's just where I'm at with that. But to get back on topic, Juneteenth, if you celebrate Juneteenth, then hey, more power to you. Then you feel a certain way. I am the type of person, I respect the person's right to be able to do something, because I want them to respect my right to not want to do that and to not want to be a part of that. And so I let people live on all of the different days that I don't observe. But Juneteenth, I will observe and acknowledge Juneteenth when we actually become mentally free, financially free, spiritually free. When we can execute all three of those, when we can actually be seen as a nation of people that have every opportunity before them, then I will celebrate Juneteenth, and Juneteenth will start at that day for me, because right now we're still under slavery. And we're going to be under slavery for a long time because we don't even, some of us realize it, but a lot of us don't. So, the information is out there, y'all. But be careful what you're reading. Be careful what sources you're getting your information from. Like I stated earlier when my brother brought it up about creating the lie and printing it in the textbooks. They call it a library for a reason, because it's books filled with lies. That's a bar from Daylight, the underground rapper. And so just pray for discernment to be able to rightly divide what is true and what is false in our history. And oftentimes you will find out what is true and what is false, because the truth is always going to be discouraged. The truth will always be discouraged by this society. The lies are going to be set up on a pedestal, and they're going to have a light shining down on them, and they're going to have everybody looking at the lie. Like my brother was saying earlier, it's the sleight of hand, distraction, diversion. They're going to make the lie look so beautiful that the truth is going to look ugly and dark. But I take that ugly, dark truth over a pretty lie any day. He said, I have found that most Americans have no clue what these holidays are even about. Americans celebrate Juneteenth, Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, and a lot of stuff that is meaningless. Bro, you you hit the nail right on the head, bro. You hit the nail right on the head. And that comes from um, I allude a lot to when Christianity started allowing pagans to bring pagan practices into Christianity under Emperor Constantine so that they would be comfortable because he wanted to use Christianity to make a one world religion so that he can control the masses. And that's what religion is primarily used for, to control the masses. And so all of these different days that we allow to be um, observed in a so-called Christian country, because this country was founded on Christianity, but yet they allow so many different pagan holidays to be observed within this country because they've allowed so many different pagans to come in this country and settle and set up shop. And everybody knows that America is a multicultural melting pot of everybody, and so they have to be all inclusive if they want this experiment to work. And so they bring all of these different things in, and now you got people practicing different stuff: Santeria, voodoo, uh Kabbalah, all of these different belief systems, all of these different spirits that are being conjured up through all of this stuff, man. And we have to sift through these things to get back to what the true foundation of this country is, or what they said it was. You said you like they need permission to fellowship and drink. Yeah, man. They go to Bohemian Grove, and that's where they have their meetings. That's where they have their power meetings and meetings of the minds and stuff like that. But it all goes back to, if you believe the word of God, man, it says in Revelations that they're gonna get drunk off the wine of the harlot, man. Said these nations are going to be sipping from the cup of abomination, and they're going to be drunk off the wine of harlotry, man. And that's exactly what's going on. They prostituting us out, man. Like I said, if you look at your UCC1 code, go look up UCC1 code. That is talking about your social security number being an account number that the United States actually borrows money from the Federal Reserve off of. And I just recently did an episode where I was talking about how the Federal Reserve is about to hike up the interest rates on the loans that the United States is taking out for them. So now that's going to cause inflation, and all of the prices are going to go up on everything. So those stimulus checks you got, you're paying it back tenfold and then some. And they also getting some of that coronavirus money, because that flow of revenue is still open. So y'all just pay attention to what's going on. There's nothing for me to celebrate in the United States as far as any type of holidays. We celebrate Father's Day. I celebrate men on Father's Day. I celebrate women on Mother's Day. And I celebrate birthdays, but that's as far as it goes, because everything else is subjective. I'm not sure about these other holidays. And whenever I start to dig and I start to get to the origins of these things, you'll see that it's based in a lot of falsehood, a whole lot of exaggeration, a whole lot of sensationalism, which that's what this country does. Because for all of these over 400 years, we've been hailing Christopher Columbus as this great person, this matriarch or patriarch, whatever you call it, of this country. And he did, all that man did was got lost, got a whole lot of people killed because of the plague that he brought over here with the animals from a different region or a different continent. He murdered and pillaged people all through the Caribbean islands on his way here. And so, how then could you sit here and come up with the narrative that this man is a hero? Where in any of those things that I just described do you hear hero? That is not the description of a hero, that is the villain. So America has made this habit of celebrating villains, and that's why whenever they started to have the issue of taking down these statues, I said, "Why is there such a big issue? For on one hand, you're celebrating a whole bunch of villains." They have statues of the general who was an actual traitor during the Civil War, but you have statues of him, you have his likeness, you have their flag flying high all over the place when there was a traitorous act which was deserving of death against the country, but it's celebrated. And so when you have these statues and things of that nature being taken down, then they should be, because these people shouldn't be celebrated in the first place. And then if you want to take it to a spiritual plane, we shouldn't be having any graven images like that up in the first place, period. And so when you look at these statues of anybody, I don't care who it is, that's a graven image right in the middle of a country who claims to be founded in Christianity, and they're doing exactly what their Bible tells them not to do. So you say thoughts back in the early days, they didn't want a fellowship with anyone of a different appearance. But when they got drunk, they went looking for those different people. No, they went looking for our wives. They went looking for our daughters. That's where the whole term honky came from, because the white men would slip down to the black neighborhoods to pick up the black women to prostitute with them, and they would just honk the horn because they wasn't coming in the house. That's where that term came from. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of black history. There's a whole lot of these stories that people don't know. And so this is why they don't want you to know. This is why they discourage CRT. Because if you start hearing these stories and you start knowing the background of your people, you're gonna mess around and get some pride about yourself. You're gonna mess around and start feeling good about being black. And God forbid you start feeling good about being black, because anytime we say anything about pro-black or black pride, it is a threat to those other people. Every single time. If we say Black Lives Matter, they got to say all lives matter to discount or diminish black lives. Why do you think that is? This is by design. This is not something that's being done in coincidence. None of this is coincidence. It was all designed in the spirit and in the natural. It was all designed. So, man, when we sit here and we look at things, man, we got to look at it from a third eye view, man. We got to put on our real glasses, our real looking glasses, man, and see what's taking place before us, man. It's absolutely necessary for our growth and for our progress into the new age, man. We have to know. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is very important right now. There's the only thing that's more important than knowledge right now is the wisdom and understanding to be able to apply that knowledge to your life. That's the only thing that's more important than knowledge right now. But you got to get this knowledge, man. You got to read. You have to dig and understand why. Because if we understand the why, it can give us a different visual, and it allow us to not be that bitter black person, to where we can actually go out here and we can enjoy our lives, and we can really navigate through all of these obstacles and systemic stuff that's been placed in front of us to try to keep us down. Yeah, it's there, but we still succeeding. There's nothing that's going to stop us from succeeding. It's just like whenever Israel was in Egypt and they were captives in Egypt, they still multiplied, they still grew, they still prospered, and there was nothing Egypt could do to stop them from prospering. And it was like, man, if we don't slow these people down, they gonna overtake us. And that was always the case whenever Israel was captive anywhere. And it's the same here because Israel is here and we're captive and we're still growing exponentially. And the fear of us overtaking them is causing them to do things like all of the systemic things to keep us under some type of control. It haven't changed. The system has not changed. The process has not changed. The formula haven't changed. There's nothing new under the sun. So we got to keep these things in mind, man. And as we keep these things in mind, then we will understand that these different celebrations that they're putting before us are not really anything for us to truly celebrate. So I mean, that's all I really got, man. I appreciate you, your crazy cousin. I appreciate your iceberg thoughts for coming through, man. Y'all brothers definitely added to the conversation, and you definitely gave me some more stuff to think about and go research. This is what I'm talking about, man. We growing and we learning. So, man, I hope y'all go out, start your day off strong, go out and be a positive image in this world, and don't allow anybody to get you to buy into their lie just because they say it persuasively. You know, this is your boy D Mac, man. Y'all know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.